Good morning. I've been thinking a lot. I have a few pages I'd like to share with you. Have you ever asked the question, how did the consciousness come to be? How did your mind come into existence? How did that presence behind your eyeballs you call your conscious self happen to exist? Some say it evolved, some say it was created. How do you answer either question when the scientific method clearly states you need to experiment and replicate your results in order for it to be claimed as fact? Both ideas require a lot of faith because the average mind cannot dig deep enough to comprehend where something so unbelievable could originate. For my own analogies, one of them was thought up because someone had such a prideful desire to explain that it was possible for life to come into existence all by itself instead of the assistance of a supreme being. For many years, people thought of how this could happen without actually being able to replicate life in the laboratory to prove their claim. The most common response is if you allow enough time to resolve, eventually the correct combination of matter and energy will be collected, that life will emerge and then continue to replicate and then continue to change into the modern state of consciousness. If you go back and analyze the theories and the given evidence, you will never find a moment where they have found the proper combination of matter and energy to create life from scratch. Since that can be said, you can then conclude that the process of life changing from one organic life form to another cannot happen, because the conclusive evidence of its origin cannot be found. How can you claim that life changed over time if you cannot provide the concrete proof of how it started? Where is the lab-grown and replicated biological matter? There is none. No one has ever figured out how to create any form of biological life in the laboratory. The believer in God says that the Lord God formed man of the dust of the ground and breathed into him the breath of life. I'd say that takes a lot of faith to believe, but does it? Can simple logic in comparing both types of origin point in a direction where one would make more sense than the other? How can something as complex as consciousness exist? How can the ability to comprehend anything and jumble it all together into existing within something our own conscious selves call space, time, and matter? How does simply existing happen? Stephen Hawking wrote in his book, The Grand Design, because there is a law such as gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. I disagree, and here's why. Let's first learn a little bit about what we know about gravity. I should first say that no one knows for sure what gravity is. From a Google search asking, where does gravity come from? I got the answer, Earth's gravity comes from all of its mass. All its mass makes a combined gravitational pull on all the mass of your body. That's what gives you weight. And if you were on a planet with less mass than Earth, you would weigh less than you do here. This says basically that we can measure gravity from the general mass that it is relative to. This paragraph is from universetoday.com. We know from Isaac Newton and his law of gravitation that any two objects in the universe exert a force of attraction on each other. This relationship is based upon the mass of the two objects and the distance between them. The greater the mass of the two objects and the shorter the distance between them, the stronger the pull of gravitational force they exert on each other. In other words, the more mass that any object has, the stronger the gravitational pull it will have. Believe it or not, all of you have your own gravitational pull. You just don't realize it because you are standing on a much stronger field of gravity that the Earth exerts. If you float out in space a very long way from any planetary body and let go of a marble at arm's length, the marble will slowly be pulled in towards your body from the gravitational fields you exert on each other. There are three phenomena in the universe that have never been observed to spontaneously come into existence. One is matter, one is energy, and the third is gravity. The first law of thermodynamics won't allow the first two to be created within the confines of this universe. The third cannot exist without the other already in existence. I asked the internet this question: does energy have a gravitational field? Answer: the general accidental pun answers to your question is yes. General relativity says that any form of energy is a source of gravity. Gravity cannot create anything because for it to exist, matter and or energy has to already be in existence. The third law of physics states for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now look at it backwards. For every reaction, there was an equal action to make that reaction happen. For every reaction, there was an equal action to make that reaction happen. For something to be in existence, such as the universe, something had to have been there beforehand to allow that action to take place. Now, either the universe created itself or something created the universe. There is no other alternative. That very law in physics tells us that anything cannot come into existence all by itself because it wasn't there to make itself. There has never been an observation of anything at all spontaneously appearing out of an absolute vacuum. I know that an absolute vacuum in this universe doesn't actually exist. An absolute vacuum is the correct terminology of absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing is the absence of space, time, and matter. The first law of thermodynamics states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. Energy cannot spontaneously come into existence, and neither can matter. Can life create itself if the universe cannot create itself? How can life create itself spontaneously if the universe it exists in cannot? I think logic points to the existence of a divine creator that stands outside of space, time, matter, and life. You see, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Genesis